Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I'm so excited. This is our final week of homeschool for the 2022-2023 homeschool year. And so we had a couple lessons to finish up in our normal curriculum. But what we're really focusing on our last week is our end of year standardized testing. So today's video, I'm going to take you along and show you how the testing we use works, why we use it, as well as I asked you guys for some questions you had specifically so I could make sure I answer those. So to clear up most of the questions, we're not required by our state to do any sort of testing. It's something I prefer to do because my kids were previously in public school. We use the same test, which is called the MAP Growth test. I specifically only use this test and like this test because I can see over time my individual kids' growth in different subjects. So I use it for myself and for my kids to just kind of get a gauge on what's going on. So we have used this test for 5+ years and I love it, and I love that it's available to homeschoolers. So I'm going to give you a ton of information. I've done previous videos on this testing as well, so if you have other questions or want to see more of it, I'll link my previous videos down below. So there are 4 different test options. There are the standards, which is a reading and math test. So those are the standard MAP tests, is reading and math. And then you have options once your kids, I think, are in a little bit, at least 2nd grade and up, to add on a language arts test and a science test. We are only doing the math, reading, and language arts this go around. I think I've done the science one maybe once. But we normally stick to the math and reading. I just was curious with the language one adding on at the end of this year. So what I did is when you sign up for the test, you go in and you can schedule the test for the date and time that you want. We normally only do 1 test per day. I think anything more than that might just be overload. The tests per test, I will say anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes. It's not timed though, and you can take as many breaks as you need. So we're taking 3 days this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which are our normal school days to take these tests. So today is Tuesday, and we are starting off with our reading test. So the reading test is that it's a reading test. They get different passages of reading and are asked different things about if they're understanding the material, vocabulary, deciphering things, and something about the MAP growth test is it is adaptable. And they're going to see a variety of questions at different levels. So they're going to see questions they can't answer because they're seeing, are they at a different level than their grade? So they will get questions that are too easy, that are too hard, and that are just right. And so that's something really important to tell your kids. They're not going to get every question right. That's not what this test is meant for. So today we're doing the reading test. It's super simple. You get a website and a password to log on to, and then your kids get on the test. My kids are pros. They've taken these tests many times. As a parent, you need to supervise the exams. However, you're not allowed to help because, again, it is trying to see them where they are at. So my girls are taking their reading test. I'm going to take you over the entire week with us of testing, show you some different things that I see and I notice, and answer your questions as well. All right, so while my girls are taking their first round of testing, I wanted to do an overview on how we access the MAP growth test and answer some of the questions. Now, we use a website called Homeschoolbosscom. When I was first researching how homeschoolers can do the exact same NWEA MAP growth test, this is the website, and this website is super easy and awesome to use. It goes over the different tests that are available. It tells you about the 4 tests I spoke of earlier and the different grade levels they're going to be available for. So like I mentioned, the reason we haven't done too much of the language usage and the science is because my kids really weren't at that age level. Now that they are, the language is something we're adding in. Science is something I'm still not doing consistently, but maybe next year we'll focus a little bit more on it. These tests are 100% done at home, and you, the parents, are fully able to administer it. There's no additional requirements. Really, you need access to an internet, some system requirements. You log your student on and they take the test. Link this website down below because there's so much great information on this test. And right off the bat, I'm going to show you the pricing because that's what everyone wants to know. So if you're doing the standard math and reading, which is the standard MAP test, it's $60 and you get both tests plus each test comes with the score and a 60-page guide going really in depth on the scores and different subjects and topics, which I'll show you more on the reports you get as we get later on in this video. You can see that you can add on the language usage test for an additional $10 and the science for $20. I believe they have under pricing, they have like a yearly subscription that you can save some money. We always just pay a la carte because I'm never really sure how often or when I'm going to test. But if you live in a state that has requirements, you might want to check out the yearly subscription option. Now to jump in to some questions that I received, specifically when we talk about state requirements. So my state does not have any requirements, and so I really don't go too much in depth on this because we don't have any requirements. But I do know that the MAP growth test is recognized by states to fulfill any annual testing requirements. And so what Homeschool Boss did is they kind of have a guide on these red highlighted states. So someone asked me specifically about Florida because Florida has a couple different options for homeschooling. One of the options is instead of having like a annual portfolio that you turn in, you can opt to just do testing. And this test does meet those requirements. So if you're in Florida, there's a whole entire webpage about everything that works. I also recommend, if you're not familiar with the HSLDA website, I would bookmark this. This is where I go for everything homeschool law related. Like I said, the state I live in has very low requirements, but if we plan to move, I do take a peek at other states. So I also recommend checking on this because if you click on a state, it's going to tell you the different options and assessment requirements. So for Florida, there's no except for option 1. So that means this state has multiple options for homeschooling. I'm not going to get super into this, but those of you that asked, the information is all there for you. All right, so another question I got is someone said that they use the CAT or California Achievement Test. This website, Homeschool Boss, has a whole article on this. So I'm going to just call out some highlights about the test. There is an online version of the California Achievement Test, so that would be a perfect option for homeschoolers, and it's only $25. So basically, they took the old pencil and paper California Achievement Test and put it on the computer. Now, some of the differences in the test is the CAT test is just a set of questions per grade level. Every kid in 3rd grade gets the same questions. The more questions you answer right, the higher your score. They also give you some reporting, but that reporting is a little outdated. I don't know exactly when it's from, but right here it says not kids from 40 to 50 years ago. The MAP growth test, you're getting results compared to 2020 compares to public school peers. So these are within the last couple years and they update them quite frequently, unlike the California Achievement Test. Another thing that's important to note is, like I said, the California Achievement Test is a set block of questions. You either get it right or you get it wrong, and all 3rd graders get the same questions. The MAP growth test is an adaptive test, and so what it does is it adjusts as your child is taking the test. So they get the same number of questions as other students, but the difficulty of the questions changes. So if they're continually getting questions right, we'll say at a 3rd grade level, they're going to start seeing 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade level questions. It's going to adapt to each child. Maybe they're not strong in a subject, and so it will adjust down for them. It's going to test, are they proficient in 1st grade questions? Are they proficient in 2nd grade? And it's really going to give you a better understanding than just comparing them at one level grade set of questions. Now, the hard part with this is you have to prepare your kids. They're going to see questions that they don't know how to answer, because a 3rd grader can see 6th grade level questions because maybe they're getting them right in the lower grades. So that's the only thing, that if your child is going to struggle with being frustrated or not feeling confident because there may be questions they can't answer, then maybe this test isn't great. But that is just something us as parents, we're not testing to get the right answer. That's not what the MAP growth test is. It's testing to see how they've grown, and it's okay to get questions incorrect. It's not a pass or fail test by any means. So if you're interested in learning more about the difference from the California Achievement Test and the MAP Growth Test, again, this is all on Homeschoolboss.com. All right, so my girls wrapped up both of their reading tests. One of my daughters took about an hour and 3 minutes, and my other daughter took about an hour and 15 minutes. The reading one does seem to be the longest because they're reading passages, and some of them can get quite lengthy. So I will preface, the reading one is the longest one. The math one, I think around that 45-minute to an hour mark, and then the language one I think is even less time. So what happened when they finished the test, I did notice something, by the way, on the when I got my information to log in for the MAP growth test that I didn't see last time. It said no screenshots of the MAP growth test, and I feel like I did do some recording of it in another video. So if you want more to see how the screen looks, I told you guys I'll link that video down below, but I'm not going to film any of the actual testing this time just to comply with their request. So it's super easy. They go to a website, they log in, and there's questions. Now, if you have a younger child who can't read or read very well, there is an option for audio questions. So they click a little audio button and it reads the question to them. So this test can be used, I believe, by kindergartners who can't read. And there is an option that asks if your child can read or not. Both my daughters know when they finish their test, right away it shows that RIT score. That's that overall score. And so I like having that because I know what their prior RIT scores were. And so I can immediately have that number in my head. And for reading, it gives you their Lexile reading level. So I have both those scores. Now, I won't get their full report and it won't update on my account for a few days. And so I'm going to pause this part of the video here until we finish up the rest of our testing. And then once I get all of our results, I'm going to show you what it looks like on my end, why I like this test, because I get those year over year, months after month results. Now, I will say, I do this test twice a year. I do it a month or two into our new school year and at the end of our school year. I may switch to just doing it at the end of our school year because you will notice their scores don't change a ton because we're doing the test of 5 months apart or less. And that makes sense, right? Like they shouldn't be jumping that high. So I feel like we're at a point to where they're great at taking tests. We understand the process. I think we're going to switch to just an annual testing, which means we're testing now in May. We're not going to test again until May of 2024. And that is where you will see the 10, 15 point jumps. All right, so it's a little bit longer of getting back to filming because after our second test, my kids started getting some sort of little cold and sickness, and so we actually had to reschedule our third test to the following week. I'm showing you portions of the report. I don't want to share, my kids' information and stuff, so I'm just kind of sharing you an overall of what you'll get. So we can see here our summary. We took a reading, language, and math. I have their RIT scores, the range of their scores, what percentile they fall in, and what score is this what grade level score is this typical of, the Lexile reading level, and then down here it tells you what all of these things mean. And then you can see, so because my kids have taken these tests over a period of time, I can see on this graph their reading score, where it was during different test times, okay? I can also see it broken down by what section of the test and what they scored on. We can do the same with language arts and math as well. And so this is really what I look at, comparing, from tests, like were there jumps, what changed, what sections are they doing well in, and then you also get some learning goals. So if you want to keep your kids in the same percentiles, it tells you what to work on, how many points they should get on their next score, or if they want to exceed this test, how many more points. So there's a bunch of information on that as well. And then in the reinforce, or in the learning statements, it tells you what these columns mean. So there's 3 columns. The column reinforce, that means that 75% of the time, if these types of questions are asked to your child, they get them correct. Develop means 50% of the time these types of questions they get correct. And introduce, it means if they see something on this section, they're only getting the questions right 25% of the time. So the far left section, that means your kids are getting those types of questions correct. Most of the time you just want to, reinforce them every now and again. All the way to the right is really skills you need to start introducing and working on. So that helps too when you're looking at curriculum, just, to kind of give you a little bit more ideas maybe on scope and sequence of what you need. So this is where the report gets super long. I want to say it's definitely over 60 pages, if you were to print it, but it does break out. So the one I was looking at above, I think, was reading. Now this is the language usage one. And then there's one for math as well. So you could just dive into this super long and go through each section of really what you need to focus on teaching wise with your child. So this is why I prefer this test, because you get so much in depth. And again, because we continue to use this test, I can see their individual growth test after test. Now, like I said, because we were testing 4 months in between, you should not see huge jumps in scores. It's really year by year is what you are looking at. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video and you got some information. Don't forget, I've linked a bunch of stuff down below, my previous video, which shows more of the actual test itself, some resource websites, and then if you have any questions specifically, leave them down below in the comments. I've taken this test, like I said, or I haven't taken it, my kids have taken it so many times that I'm sure I've thought or asked the same question. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Have a wonderful day, guys. And if you are starting summer, I hope you all have a wonderful summer. I will be around sharing lots of things for the upcoming homeschool year. Have a great day, guys. Bye.